The story begins with a powerful and unsettling image. A dead body is being gently lowered into the ground, surrounded by cold, heavy silence. Nearby, a man stands alone, watching this painful event unfold. His face shows deep pain and sadness, almost like he's wearing a mask carved from sorrow. All of a sudden, a loud, raw scream bursts from him, filled with fear and anguish, shattering the quiet around him.
Grief is rotting your teeth.
This man is Karsh. He is not only wealthy, but also a highly creative and successful businessman. The nightmare he just experienced isn't a random dream. It reflects something very personal and painful. The person being buried in his vision was his late wife, Rebecca. She passed away 4 years ago after a long and exhausting battle with cancer. Since her death, Karsh has been deeply affected. His life has felt empty and directionless, filled with emotional pain that never seems to fade. Karsh tries to explain what he just saw in his sleep. The dentist listens carefully, realizing that Karsh's intense grief is possibly affecting him in more ways than just emotionally. He suggests Karsh's persistent tooth pain might be caused not by dental issues, but by his unresolved sorrow. When Karsh doubts this, the dentist gently reassures him, telling him that emotions can cause real, physical reactions in the body. Noticing how weighed down Karsh is by his sadness, the dentist suggests setting Karsh up on a blind date. The goal isn't to replace Becca, but simply to give Karsh a chance to connect with someone new, maybe take a small step forward in life. Though unsure at first, Karsh eventually agrees. The date is arranged to take place at an upscale modern restaurant called the Shrouds at Gravetech. This detail is not accidental. Karsh is actually the owner of this restaurant. It is part of his larger company, Gravetech, which is known for using advanced technology in ways no one has tried before. When Karsh arrives at the restaurant, he meets his date, a woman named Morna.
And you've been divorced for?
Oh, 20 years. More.
The place is sleek and stylish, reflecting the success he's achieved in business. As they begin to talk, Karsh opens up about his professional life. He shares that this restaurant and the business behind it are his creations. He explains that Gravetech isn't just a restaurant company, it also operates a unique, private cemetery located nearby. This cemetery is unlike traditional ones. It uses modern technology to help families stay connected with their deceased loved ones in an unusual and powerful way. As the dinner continues, Karsh begins to talk about Becca. He explains how deep and intense his love for her was. Her death didn't just hurt him, it changed him. When she was buried, he remembers feeling a powerful wish to be buried with her, to not be separated even by death.
So strong. I couldn't stand it that she was alone in there. It was right here, pulling me hard.
That memory brings back strong feelings that are still fresh inside him. Morna listens quietly and then asks something practical. If his love for Becca was that strong, why didn't he choose cremation instead of burial? Karsh's answer reveals more about his personal beliefs and the reasons behind his work. Becca was Jewish, and according to her faith, the soul does not immediately leave the body after death. Instead, it lingers, staying close to the body because it grew attached to it during life. The soul in this belief system is slow to say goodbye. Cremation, Karsh explains, would go against this process. It would be like violently pushing the soul away, which is why it was never an option for Becca. Burial allowed her soul to gently separate over time. Karsh then tells Morna that Becca's grave is right outside in the nearby cemetery. Wanting to share something deeply personal, he invites Morna to see what he's been working on since Becca's death.
Would you like to see her grave?
Together, they walk into the cemetery. What they find is nothing like a traditional burial ground. Each grave here has a large digital screen built into the tombstone. These screens are connected to cameras and sensors that were placed inside the coffin. Karsh's invention allows people to see their loved ones even after burial, using a real-time feed. This is not a recording. It is a live view made possible by advanced technology. Karsh shows Morna Becca's grave. He pulls out his phone, opens an app, and soon the screen on Becca's tombstone comes to life.
Basically a kind of enveloping camera in her grave.
A 3D image of her body appears. The display is sharp and clear, showing her from multiple angles. Karsh explains that this is possible because of a special burial cloth called the shroud that is filled with tiny cameras and sensors. With this, he can rotate the image, zoom in, and feel close to Becca in a way no one ever imagined before. For Karsh, this brings comfort, but for Morna, it feels strange and unsettling.
That's An image of your wife's decaying body.
What's happening to her? I'm in the grave with her. It has drained away that fluid of grief that was drowning me.
When Karsh talks about wanting to be buried next to Becca permanently, Morna becomes deeply uncomfortable. She steps away, saying she needs a cigarette to calm herself. Now alone with the image of his wife, Karsh notices something odd on the 3D screen. On Becca's skull, strange round shapes begin to appear, spots that don't look natural. A sense of fear creeps over him. Something about these marks feels wrong and alarming. Later, Karsh is at his house in a bath, fully immersed in his work. He is preparing to expand his grave tech business into other parts of the world. However, the image of those mysterious spots on Becca's skull continues to disturb him. Hoping to find answers, the next morning, he visits Terry, Becca's twin sister. She has always been someone he trusts for advice and comfort. Karsh brings out his laptop and insists on showing her the images from the screen.
Why would I?
You know bodies, and you know doctors.
At first, Terry is uninterested in looking at the horrific state of her sister, but eventually she agrees to do so. Karsh points out the odd circular marks on Becca's skull and torso. Terry looks at the screen and reacts immediately.
Think of it as a shroud count autopsy. We're pathologists.
Looks like a tracking device.
You're kidding me.
She says the marks look exactly like tracking devices. Karsh is shocked and confused. He refuses to believe such a thing could be true, but Terry remains sure. She wonders aloud if someone might be trying to track him, perhaps a rival. She reminds him that he produces corporate video content and is a well-known figure. It's possible, she says, that someone out there wants to follow him, and this might be how they're doing it. Karsh's conversation with Terry is suddenly interrupted when a video message appears on his phone. It's from one of his cemetery employees. The footage reveals complete devastation, shattered gravestones, destroyed screens, and general disorder across the once peaceful burial site. The damage is shocking. Someone had broken in and violently attacked the cemetery, leaving behind a trail of destruction. The scene shows not just physical damage, but also a deep violation of a space meant to be sacred and respectful. There's also an alert message, telling him the police have not been contacted yet, and he is being awaited at the factory to see it for himself. Disturbed by the video, Karsh hurries to the location to see it.
Middle of the night, early morning, whatever, it was dark.
Where did that video come from?
When he arrives, his employee explains that the attack occurred sometime after the restaurant had closed for the night. An unknown person or group had entered the cemetery and caused the destruction. The staff members who discovered the damage early the next morning had asked if they should call the authorities. However, the employee made the decision not to involve the police. She knew that Karsh would want to avoid any negative media attention that might harm GraveTech's growing reputation.
We have to shut down the restaurants and close all access to the cemetery until I've had a chance to assess the damage.
Deeply affected by what he sees, Karsh immediately tells his team to close both the restaurant and the cemetery. He wants everything to be thoroughly repaired and properly secured before reopening. His employee, sensing the seriousness of the situation, makes a valuable suggestion. Karsh should reach out to Maury, Terry's former husband. Maury is a skilled technology expert who originally developed the security system used in the GraveTech network. If anyone can figure out how the break-in happened, it's him. Later that evening, Maury arrives at Karsh's home. As they begin discussing the breach, Maury casually brings up Terry, asking how she's doing. Karsh responds briefly, saying she's fine, but never talks about Maury anymore.
My death. She celebrates. Anyway.
Despite the awkwardness, Maury already has some idea of what happened at the cemetery. Karsh has hired him to investigate the situation and determine how someone was able to bypass the security protocols. Was it simply a clever hacker or something more complicated? To help with the investigation, Karsh gives Maury access to video feeds from other grave sites. In the past, Karsh made deals with certain clients, offering them discounted services in exchange for permission to use their data for testing and maintenance. This allows Maury to examine more parts of the system without legal issues. While Maury begins his analysis, the story introduces another part of the GraveTech world. Honey, Karsh's digital assistant.
That's what you want. I'm ready to go. But is that really why you summoned me?
You know me too well.
Honey is not just a normal artificial intelligence. She was designed to look and sound like Becca, Karsh's late wife. Maury had created Honey to help comfort Karsh in his time of grief. Using this virtual assistant, Karsh schedules an appointment with Dr. Eckler, the cancer specialist who treated Becca during her final months. Later that night, Karsh's emotional and mental stability starts to fall apart. He experiences a vivid and disturbing hallucination. In it, he sees Becca lying next to him in bed. She rises, saying she needs to prepare for an appointment with Dr. Eckler.
They should call it the caller. It calls me. He says they need the left breast.
Why? Because do they know that?
I don't think they know that.
This experience shows how deeply Karsh's grief has taken hold of him, blending reality with imagination. The following morning, Maury returns with new information. He has discovered that the security breach left behind a digital lockout screen filled with strange symbols. After tracing the patterns and analyzing the data, he manages to link the origin of the attack to Iceland, specifically to Reykjavik, the capital. All the servers used in the cyber attack are located there. At the same time, Karsh prepares to visit Dr. Eckler, but before he can leave, Honey delivers troubling news.
For an international chemotherapy conference.
The doctor had recently traveled to Reykjavik for a medical conference on cancer treatment, but now no one has heard from him. Hearing the name Reykjavik again, especially after Maury's findings, shocks Karsh. The fact that both the security breach and the doctor's disappearance are tied to the same city is too strange to ignore. Feeling overwhelmed, Karsh tells Honey to try contacting any other doctors who had once been involved in Becca's care. Karsh's main concern now is the strange circular marks he saw on Becca's digital image. He wants to know if those markings could be a natural part of decomposition or if they might be signs of something artificial, like surveillance devices, just as Terry feared. Later, Karsh visits Maury again, hoping for updates. Unfortunately, Maury hasn't discovered anything new. He admits the hackers are highly skilled and difficult to trace. Karsh becomes more convinced that this is part of a larger conspiracy, possibly led by business competitors. Gravetech's technology is innovative and extremely profitable. It makes sense that someone might want to steal the idea or destroy the company.
She thinks maybe they hired somebody here.
Well, you're a pretty good politician when it comes to manipulating the city, so yeah. And let me ask you a politically sensitive question.
Their conversation takes an uncomfortable turn when Maury brings up a personal subject. He wonders if Karsh has ever had an intimate relationship with Terry, since she is Becca's twin and looks so much like her. Karsh firmly denies it, saying that such a relationship has never existed and never will.
It occurred for a flash when I was desperate to have that body again. But no, not Terry.
Karsh firmly adds that Becca herself had warned him to stay away from her sister after her passing, and he would never break that trust. Later, Karsh returns to the damaged cemetery to inspect things more closely. As he carefully examines the area, he notices something strange. The destruction wasn't random. Most graves were untouched, while a few specific ones were severely vandalized.
Maybe. I don't know. Then Becca's would have been one of them.
One of the most damaged graves was Becca's. When Karsh tries using the mobile app, it doesn't work. Instead, a terrorist-like symbol appears on the screen, showing that the system is malfunctioning. On another damaged grave, Maury finds small marks on the optic cables, indicating that someone had intentionally tampered with the wiring.
Not very frenzied. Calmly looking for data.
Oliver. I'm taking her away from you.
After going back home, Karsh opens his iPad and watches a documentary about a respected businessman from Hungary, possibly someone interested in working with him. The man has a good reputation, and Karsh wants to learn more. That evening, Karsh meets with a woman named Suman. She is visually impaired and married to a powerful business leader who was close to death, the same Hungarian man Karsh had been researching. Her husband's final wish is to be buried, not cremated. Suman, having learned about Gravetech's technology, is interested in building a similar cemetery in Budapest. She asks Karsh to bring his innovation there. Karsh gives her a positive reply, but after leaving, he calls his manager. He says he doesn't want to lose this client because of the current issues, like the hacking incident. The manager seems unsure if it's possible, but agrees to try and fix the problems and resume business as soon as they can. Later that night, Karsh becomes overwhelmed by emotion. In a strange moment, he wraps himself in one of the special burial shrouds. He lies down, hoping to feel what Becca might be feeling in her grave. For him, it's a way to connect with her more deeply, to understand the experience of death. But this act shows that his grief is becoming more dangerous. On the screen, we see his flesh and muscles, unlike Becca's remains, which are only bones. As he lies still, surrounded by the shroud, the screen flickers and changes. Honey appears. Though calm, she disapproves of his actions. She reminds Karsh that the shrouds were created for the dead, not the living.
Might be a big mistake.
The vandalism, it's gotten to you.
What do you mean?
Burying the dead is a big deal. What about your plans for World Day?
She warns him that using the technology this way crosses a line, but she also gently tells him not to be this depressed. Then she informs him that one of Dr. Eckler's former colleagues has agreed to meet him. The next day, Karsh meets the doctor and shows him the 3D images from Becca's grave. He hopes the doctor will recognize the markings and confirm whether they are signs of tampering or implanted devices. But things don't go as planned. The doctor looks at the images carefully and quickly dismisses Karsh's fears. According to him, the marks are normal signs of the body breaking down after death, especially in cancer patients like Becca. Without much explanation, the doctor leaves. He offers no comfort, but says he's willing to look into the matter if Karsh sends him the footage. Karsh is left sitting there, disappointed and more confused than ever. Though his theory isn't confirmed, the unease in his mind only grows. Just as Karsh is trying to process everything, his phone vibrates. It's a message from Honey.
Why did you think that?
Tracking you. Know where you are. It's at hospital.
Yeah, right, so?
Karsh isn't in the mood for small talk. He tells Honey to switch to her proper avatar and share her message directly. It's on behalf of Suman, the woman he recently met. She has urgently requested to see him in her hotel room. Meeting a business partner in such a private setting feels odd, but Karsh, clouded by emotions and stress, leaves immediately. Upon arriving at the hotel, Suman begins by speaking about business matters, but it quickly becomes clear that this isn't a typical meeting. She gently asks if she can touch his face and reaches out, her hands exploring its lines.
Touching. He won't touch me. When I touch him.
She opens up about her loneliness. With her husband nearing death, she longs for comfort, physical closeness, and human connection. Karsh, still burdened by the emotional emptiness left by Becca's death, feels vulnerable. He doesn't resist her advances. Even as he gives in physically, his heart and mind remain distant. His thoughts drift to Becca. After their intimacy, while lying next to Suman, Karsh's grief resurfaces, and he hallucinates Becca again.
Found something?
My arm was just hanging by the skin and muscle.
He sees her not as the beautiful woman he remembers, but as she appeared in her final days, worn down by cancer. Her body is incomplete, showing scars from surgeries. One hand and a breast are missing. The image is heartbreaking and haunting. He invites her to lie beside him and holds her tight, but his embrace only causes her pain due to her fragile state. Even with someone else beside him, the trauma refuses to let go. He notices a digital collar around Becca's neck, one he had once given her to manage her health and memory. The hallucination fades, pulling Karsh back to reality.
I really enjoyed taking your neo-virginity.
He finds himself staring at Suman. She wakes, watches him carefully, and gives a serious warning. She expresses concern about Honey, his AI assistant. She believes the program is not under his control. Perhaps it never was. She suspects it is leaking personal data. This makes Karsh start to question everything. The next day, he returns home and tells Honey he'll manage things himself, and she should rest. After Honey logs off, Karsh switches off his laptop and phone for safety. Then he enters another room and picks up a separate phone Honey cannot access. Using it, he calls Suman's husband and discusses potential burial site locations in Budapest. Later, Karsh walks alongside Sumin, oddly comforted by her presence. As they stroll, they run into Terry.
Hi, Terry. What kind of dog do you have?
Oh, Hershey's not really my dog.
The unexpected encounter creates a brief, tense moment. Karsh introduces the two women, but the atmosphere remains awkward.
Come on, my friend. Come on, let's go. Come on.
That night, alone at home, Karsh's hallucinations return even more powerfully. Becca appears again, speaking in cryptic, unsettling language. She mentions Dr. Eckler, calling him Jerry, and says he's in Iceland using her surgically removed body parts for a medical demonstration. She feels connected to him through those parts. Karsh asks about the nature of the presentation, but she responds vaguely.
Dr. Eckler.
Becca confirms that Jerry is indeed Dr. Eckler's first name. As the hallucination fades, there's a knock at the door. Terry arrives. Emotions rise as Karsh confronts her about Becca. He asks if Becca ever had a romantic relationship with Dr. Eckler after their marriage. Terry's silence, followed by a quiet confirmation, breaks him. She reveals that Jerry had been Becca's professor and they had dated. Becca had contacted him from the hospital, even while married to Karsh. Everything changes in that moment. The hallucinations now seem like reflections of Karsh's subconscious rather than supernatural messages.
She told me she hardly noticed that.
She told me that too.
And then?
Then he had her body as she was dying.
Buried beneath the grief, a deep sense of betrayal emerges. Karsh realizes Becca's love wasn't as complete as he believed, and perhaps his own distance and obsession with work pushed her away. In his vulnerable state, Karsh turns to Terry, who responds to his emotional openness. She looks like Becca, and being with her feels like being close to the woman he lost. Desperate to hold on to something familiar, he and Terry become physically intimate. For Karsh, it's not passion. It's an emotional grasp for what was lost. Terry seems to accept and enjoy the moment. Not long after, Maury contacts Karsh with an important update. The strange circular marks on Becca's body also appear on other vandalized graves. This proves the attacks weren't random.
And it's the evidence of what crime?
Later, Karsh activates Honey at home, but something is wrong. The AI behaves erratically, echoing the strange tone of his hallucinated Becca.
All 9 of the buried whose reps you're about to see. Some of their body parts, too. I can check that out for you if you like.
Karsh quickly shuts it down. Suman's warning now makes terrifying sense. Honey may have been compromised. Angry and suspicious, he goes to confront Maury, but Maury is gone. Instead, he finds Terry waiting.
Listen, I'm killing myself.
Well, that would be a relief to a lot of people.
Terry plays a secret recording of her heated confrontation with Maury. In it, Maury is consumed with jealousy. Knowing she has feelings for Karsh, he admits to damaging the cemetery, not for business, but out of personal rage. Worse, he confesses to hiring hackers to break into GraveTech's system and manipulate Honey. Everything Suman feared was true.
GraveTech, Shroud Cam, the cemetery he built, the ones he wants to build, split with him unless you let me back in.
Maury, this is nuts time. What are you gonna do?
The messy truth becomes clear. Karsh mourned Becca, who had secretly loved another. Terry loved Karsh. Maury loved Terry, and each of them loved someone who couldn't love them fully in return. After the truth came out, the cemetery was repaired, and GraveTech's network was restored. Maury disappeared. Life quieted. Soon after, Dr. Eckler's colleague visited Karsh at the restaurant with updates about Becca's skeletal marks.
Some lovely fanatics in the radiology department were able to do in this little video.
He showed an animated video explaining his team's findings. The spots were layered digital animations, not real physical marks. They had nothing to do with Becca's cancer or the burial shroud.
No matter how much you rotated or enlarged them, huge amount of work went into them, I would. You have any idea why they want to do that?
No.
The doctor asked who might have done this to Karsh and why. Karsh, unsure or unwilling to answer, returned the iPad and quietly said he couldn't think of anyone. After their meeting, Karsh became visibly upset. He now knew exactly who was behind it all and why. Maury's shady personality had finally been exposed. Unfortunately, while driving, Karsh received a call from Maury. His voice was filled with terror.
Hey, listen, I programmed a navigation destination into your Tesla. It's called
Maury was hiding in a forest, begging Karsh to meet him. He didn't look well or stable. He said he had already programmed a destination point into his Tesla, and it would drive Karsh straight to him. Maury's nose was bleeding, and he admitted he had made a terrible mistake, one that everyone would pay for. When Karsh asked what he meant, Maury confessed he had hired Russians, but something had gone wrong. Now he needed to see Karsh urgently.
Just have your car drive you to me. Or at least follow the nav route. Fuck!
Without further explanation, Maury ended the call. Karsh had no choice but to allow the car to take him to the forest. Soon after, he found Maury there, broken and desperate. Maury explained that he had hired Russian hackers working with Chinese operatives to attack the network. But when he refused to continue the collaboration, they punished him by cutting off his fingers. He showed Karsh the fresh, brutal wounds.
Just a fucking coincidence! Where would you go?
Maury said he planned to leave the country, just like Dr. Eckler had. He joked about whether sleeping with twin sisters made them brothers. This enraged Karsh, but he didn't respond. That night, Karsh told Terry what Maury had said, but she quickly dismissed it. She insisted Maury was lying. His fingers had been missing since high school. She knew he was pretending to be a victim to escape responsibility. Later that night, driven by a need for answers, Karsh and Terry visited the cemetery. They stood in front of Becca's repaired grave. Beside it was a new unmarked one. Using the cemetery's internal camera, Karsh looked inside and was shocked to see the body of Dr. Jerry Eckler. Karsh's world shattered. He immediately suspected that Maury had killed Jerry out of revenge. But a more disturbing thought crept in. What if Karsh himself had done it? After learning about Becca's affair, could jealousy have overtaken him? Could he have killed Jerry and buried him in the cemetery to hide the evidence? If Maury looked guilty, Karsh would escape suspicion. Time passed. Karsh boarded a private jet to Budapest with Suman, ready to expand GraveTech internationally. Before the flight, Suman assured him he would love Budapest and that all their friends would visit him after her burial at the new GraveTech cemetery. It seemed like he had finally decided to be with her, and the flight began. As the plane soared through the clouds, Karsh turned to speak to Suman, but saw Becca instead. Her body was still scarred from cancer, missing a hand and breast. She turned to him in anger, blaming him for abandoning her and flying to a new life in Budapest instead of lying beside her in the grave. Karsh responded, saying it was she who chose Dr. Eckler to lie beside her, and he had no place there anymore. Then Suman came back into focus, telling him Becca was already gone, and now he had her.
And you have me now. And in the end, we'll be together.
In his mind, they leaned in and kissed, united by a future where they would rest together in the same grave. This was Karsh's deepest wish, to be with Becca forever, even in death. The final scene suggests that Karsh had not healed. He remained trapped by his trauma. No matter who stood beside him, he would only ever see his wife. His love for Becca was eternal, but twisted into grief and obsession. The groundbreaking technology Karsh created, meant to comfort those in mourning, had become a tool of his madness. And with this sad conclusion, the movie ends.